Is Albert Breer on the phone line?
Albert Breer is on the horn.
Of the NFL media? Is it the NFL media like your alma mater, Albert? Should I say that?
However you want to refer to it, Rich. You're the boss over there.
I don't know where over there is. Albert Breer of NFL Media joining me right now. What to make of the Des Bryant franchising, Albert?
Well, I think more than anything else, Rich, is a sign of the trepidation that the Cowboys have about going forward with this player. I think they'd be willing to do the raw numbers that Larry Fitzgerald or a Calvin Johnson's made in the past, the guaranteed money that makes them skittish. And there's a natural progression that players take. We all know in those locker rooms you keep score by salary. If you're going to pay a guy $15, $16 million a year, he takes on a different place in your locker room. You can't keep as close an eye on him anymore. You can't treat him the same way you did when he was a younger player. And I know there's some concern over that with the Cowboys. So this is I think more than anything else, a sign that they want to continue to date Des Bryant seriously, but they may not want to marry him at that level.
Albert Breer joining me here right now. So maybe it's a money situation. Or does this videotape even exist, Albert? I mean, nobody can tell if this videotape that the story last week essentially was a rumor being confirmed that there's a rumor. We're confirming there's a rumor now. That's what things are happening with the NFL media now.
Here's where you want to look, Rich, okay? The timing of that happened during the NFL lockout. There was an incident you might remember that happened in a shopping mall a few months before that during the NFL lockout. The Cowboys, when they drafted Des Bryant, had an understanding. If we're going to bring him here because he's got access to the people he grew up around and some of the trouble he's gotten into because of geographically where the Cowboys are, we're going to have to keep a close eye on him. And they've been all over him like a hawk since he came into the league. But that short period of time there, I mean, that to me is maybe the most interesting part of all of this, because some of his troubles came during that period when they couldn't keep as close an eye on him because by rule they weren't allowed to. And I think when you pay a guy, it's different. When you got a guy in a rookie deal and you're keeping a close eye on him and you're trying to help him grow up, that's one thing. There's another thing if he becomes the second highest paid player on your entire roster. You can't treat him the same way anymore. And so I think that's part of it, is that Dez needs to earn the trust of the people in that building, and I don't think they're there yet before they're going to guarantee him that kind of money and move him up the salary scoreboard in that locker room and put him in a place where, all right, now everybody else in the team is going to be watching everything he does because of the amount of money that he makes. And so, I think the timing of those incidents tells you what you need to know, that they feel like if they take their hands off of him and they aren't keeping as close an eye on him, and they put him in a position of leadership because that's what happens when guys get paid like that. They're not quite sure that they can trust him. And that little period in 2011 is one little, I think one little piece of insight that we can all look at and say, that right there is why the Cowboys feel like they can't trust him, because the minute they weren't able to surround him with all kinds of fail-safes, he found his way back into trouble.
I've got 5 more minutes with you, Albert, so I want to do some quick hitters. If DeMarco Murray hits the open market, who would be interested in his services to pay him the amount of money that he wants?
Well, I think you need to look at the teams that are willing to spend. I don't think he's going to get what he wants. The rookie class is too deep at the running back position. The market for running backs has been too flat. I don't think he's going to get, forget Adrian Peterson, even an Arian Foster type of deal. Look at the teams that are going to be in a position to spend that have young quarterbacks. Oakland, Jacksonville, those two teams, they have to spend because of this minimum spend. And over the next few years, they've got to get over those thresholds, or they're going to be cutting checks to the union. So at the running back position, I think the market's still going to be relatively flat. And I think where agents have trouble, they're going to go seek out those teams that have to get over those minimum spends.
What do you make of the Ndamukong Suh non-tagging, Albert?
It's just it's logistics. The price tag's too much. It's $27 million. You can't. I don't care who you are. It's outside of maybe a quarterback. And Suh, as far as playing another position, is close to the value of a quarterback as anybody. But you can't justify it. So they're going to continue to work to try to get a deal done. And I know the Lions want to get a deal done. But this is kind of the residue of the old rookie wage scale, where the old rookie wage system, those guys got paid like that. They had big numbers on the end of their contracts. When you're drafting as high as the Lions were, and you've got a number of those contracts, they cause long-term problems. And so they knew this was coming with Calvin Johnson and Matthew Stafford and Ndamukong Suh all being top 2 picks. This is kind of the final phase of that, and that's why it's made it difficult logistically. They want to keep him rich. I just don't know. It's going to really depend on whether or not he's going to go for absolute top dollar, because I think there might be more out there for him than the Lions are willing to spend.
Demaryius Thomas gets franchise tagged. Is this a situation in Denver where Peyton Manning gets restructured and Julius Thomas stays, or what, Albert?
Well, I think the impact of Demaryius Thomas getting tagged is probably Julius Thomas being gone. I think the goal had been, when they first started negotiating with Demaryius Thomas, to get him done and then try and tag Julius, because the tight end number is more palatable than the receiver number. But it's clear that Demaryius Thomas is it will be the more difficult player to replace. So this is one way of taking care of your quarterback. I do think that they will get something done with Peyton Manning. I think that the main thing you want to look at here, though, is how they work the rest of their team. I think this has very clearly become John Elway's show. His backup quarterback is now the head coach. His old backup quarterback is now the head coach. And I don't think that they're going to be the same type of all-in. I don't think they're going to use the same type of all-in approach that they used the last few years. And they're going to be building for the long term now, and it'll be interesting to see how Peyton reacts to that.
And lastly, the Patriots, we're waiting to hear about Devin McCourty as the secondary for New England could be up in the air. What are you hearing about McCourty and also the future of Revis there in New England?
Well, Revis is the one to watch here. I know they've been working real hard to try and find a solution there. I think Revis, at the end of the day, is going to be the highest paid corner in football. I think he would maybe take a little bit less to stay in New England, but if he gets out there in the market, who knows what other teams are going to offer. And I would expect very much for the New York Jets to be a player for Darrelle Revis.
Is that right?
Yeah, I think the Jets have something to offer him, and I could see a scenario where the Jets say, "Come here and you can be the face of our franchise." They treat him like a quarterback, and I think it'll be interesting if he does make it to the market. That $20 million option, I think, is just too much. Similar to Sue, where you value the player, but you just can't carry that kind of number on your cap. And so, I think that they're going to work real hard over the next week to try and get something done. The tag, I think, right now, it's the Patriots are hanging it over both Gostkowski and McCourty. I know McCourty and the team have been talking. They'd like to have him back as well. Obviously, the Patriots have a lot of moving pieces here, and I think we'll see how that plays out over the next couple of hours. But I think both Gostkowski and McCourty are in play for the tag.
All right, Albert, you take care. Thanks for calling in, bud.
You got it, Rich.
You got that's Albert Breer of NFL Media.
The Rich Eisen Show, weekdays at noon Eastern. On Audience.